Here.
Mrs. Garvey. Here. Mrs. Laura.
Here.
Mrs. Ryan Gruber.
Here.
And Mrs. Moore.
Here. Can I get a motion to go into closed session, please?
I move to go into closed session for the purpose to discuss appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district.
Second.
Mrs. Jordan. Ms. Philby. Sorry, Mrs. Garvey.
Aye.
Mrs. Laura.
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan Gruber.
Aye.
And Mrs. Moore.
Following close, please.
I move to approve. I move to approve employment recommendations as presented. Second.
Ms. Allen.
Aye.
Mrs. Jordan.
Aye.
Mrs. Mulcrown.
Aye.
Mrs. Garvey.
Aye.
Mrs. Laura.
Aye.
And Mrs. Ryan Gruber.
Aye. Consent agenda?
Had no questions on the consent agenda.
Any new questions? All right, motion please.
Move to motion to accept the consent agenda as presented. Second.
Garvey.
Aye.
Mrs. Laura.
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan Gruber.
Aye.
Ms. Allen.
Aye.
Mrs. Jordan.
Aye.
And Mrs.
Aye. Appearances before the board.
Yep, so we have everything SC Gross and we have both Ryan and Jeff here to present. My guess is they're gonna tag team on certain parts of this, right? Yep. So,
With your little table.
yeah.
Be perfect for my night.
Thanks for having us today. We're going to focus today, and those of you that have taken a look at our presentation, we're going to focus on things that might not often be seen at SC Gross. At the beginning of the year, you guys got to hear about data. Last month, I think you heard from Kathy about some of the curricular and idea changes that are going to be happening at SC Gross, which I think are exciting. We wanted to take some time to focus on what makes our culture and climate at Gross great for our students and for our staff. And it starts with the input of everyone in the building, right? And for years, and you can tell right here, right? A logo shift happened 12 years ago, and Gross, that name went away, right? It became SEG, and that was our branding, that was our logo, that's what you see everywhere, because that wasn't embraced by the community. That's embraced by the community now. Gross is embraced, and a paraprofessional of ours, Mr. Alvarez, he came up to me one day and he said, wouldn't it be cool if we had shirts that said, "We are Gross"? And I spent 12 years running away from that, right? So that would be awesome. And so you can see kids in those shirts now. You can see staff. I see parents trivia night that the PTO put on. I saw those "We Are Gross" shirts. That makes me proud. I know it makes our staff proud, our students proud, and all of you as well. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what makes up Gross as a school. Jeff's going to start us out by talking about one of the most significant shifts that we had this year. And it was around student management, culture, and climate in our building.
That's right. The Warrior Way is something hopefully middle school parents have heard a little bit about from their kids. It's something that we are proud of. It's hopefully taking something that was good at SC Gross and making it great, or making it great from a climate and culture standpoint. And so it started about 18 months ago. We had some teachers that came to us with some ideas for enhancements, and we had some PBIS principals throughout our school. And what we were able to do then, through conversation, through discussion with teachers, feedback from students, input from staff, was do a little bit of a gap analysis and kind of find out what areas that we were strong in and what areas in culture and climate that we wanted to enhance or improve. And so this has been our path towards that. And it's really been exciting to see it grow. I think, there's some tenets of PBIS, like teaching expectations, reteaching expectations, some incentives that are key to this. But I think at the same time, what we've seen is the buy-in from kids. And so you'll see on there, 80,000 tickets have been given out. And I think that's hard to visualize, but we have rolls and rolls of tickets that go out to our students, and it hasn't faded away. And so it's something that kids were excited about at the beginning of the year, are still excited about now. There's an individual component to it. There's a team component to it. But I think it's just one aspect of this. But the buy-in part, I think you'll see on the next slide, but some of the things we've done has really enhanced climate and culture. And I think one of the ways that we hear about it most is we get new kids into the school who come from a different middle school and we ask them about their experience. We say, how is it different here? What's different? And hearing them verbalize, it's calm. There's a sense of community to it that maybe they didn't experience in their previous school. And I think those are things that we take pride in and want to continue to build on. We have seen statistically decreases in minors and majors, infractions, detention, suspensions, and so those are things that we also are proud of. So each month or over a different time period, we have a different focus. And so for March, starting a few weeks ago, we're building off of the March Madness basketball enthusiasm. And we've added some different components. And so as a team, as a homeroom, what you can do is you can add points based on tickets. And so you can earn tickets for doing the right thing, for meeting expectations, for exceeding expectations. But then we've also added in different elements. So one of the elements is there's a community component and in this case, what we've done is we've paired up with a local parish. And so we reached out to them. They said, our need is great. These are the things that we could use. And so we pushed it out there to our students. And then in a quick period of time, they've already exceeded over 1,000 donations. And so it goes on for a few more days into next week. But we're excited with their response. And again, I think it's the community component, but there's also this team component where they're trying to earn points for their homeroom. And the buy-in has been significant. So tomorrow, 8 of our homerooms who are still remaining are competing in an Elite 8 basketball competition, which has created a buzz and some more enthusiasm. So again, you see all 3 grade levels. So 80,000 tickets overall, but all 3 grade levels are over 25,000. So it's not just we're excited, younger, but it fades off. There's really investment and buy-in across all 3 grades. And I think there's a change in the field as well. You'll notice that Ryan's pointed out our logo. So we have our primary logo here, based on some feedback that started from students and then was taken to a different level by one of our teachers, Megan Matucci. We were able to create an alternative logo, which we use in some different phases within the school. And then we had a parent who's a graphic designer take it and really make it even more of ours. So any hockey fans out there, it looks a little bit like the Vegas Knights logo, and some of the earlier renditions look like the Vegas Knights, and then we had a graphic designer really help us enhance it. And now we're looking towards a mascot to kind of build on that climate and culture and buy-in from our students.
I know we talked briefly about, how are we building leadership within the buildings. I'm just gonna go back really quickly. And it's the Warrior Way leadership group, right? Megan Matucci, Jen Makovich, Natalie Jordan, Jeff Thompson, Jenna Hickey, Katie Johns, and Jeff headed that up. They meet once a month, twice a month at times, at 7 in the morning to get everything prepared, to make sure that this is up and running, to look at data and say, what needs to change? What do we need to focus on? What do we need to teach? And so these people have been instrumental in carrying that forward, and just want to give them a quick shout out with that. And the change there went from a V to a W. You see that? There's a W in the face of the guy, like Warrior. So now there's a W instead of a V. Mr. Lyson did that for us. He was a former Warrior, so he went to Gross, and now his children are in District 95 as well. So we thank him for that. Something else that brings great sense of culture to the building is some of our new additions. And I'm not going to read these quotes from the students. I'll let you do that. You can go back in your packets to take a look at that. But these staff members have been instrumental in helping keep a great culture and continue to maintain what we want at SC Gross. Mandy O'Malley joins us again. She was with us. She focused on her family for a few years and came back to teach Spanish for us. We love having her back. Emily Southman, some of you might know her from, she was a 1-year sub last year for Miss Ralston while she was out. We we were able to keep her on staff. She now teaches seventh grade ELA for us and is doing a fantastic job, has great connections with kids. We were fortunate to have Christina Chaika join us this year, come over from Brook Park, longtime Brook Park teacher. She really is passionate about social studies and wanted to try something new. And we are reaping the benefits of her coming and providing social studies instruction and life instruction for our middle schoolers at 7th and 8th grade. And then Anna Hartley, brand new to education and to SC Gross. And I think she has made great strides this year as a first-year teacher. I will contest that it's harder than ever to be a teacher, and she is doing a fantastic job. You can see how the kids connect with her with that quote there. Again, these are the things that came out of random kids. I pulled out of there. This isn't like I went and found the kid. I went down that list and said, I'm pulling this kid so they can come out of class and talk with me. And these are the things that those kids said. And I think that's so important to look into, not what we think about the teacher, but what do the kids think about them? So they've added quite a bit. 2 more additions this year. Chelsea Friedman joined us as a resource teacher for our special education students. A wealth of knowledge. She was a veteran teacher that came to us from another district. And our team is much stronger with her. We're happy to have her and hoping, well, and would look to retain her into next year. We're excited for that. And Pam Podolner came to us from Berwyn and changed the program, right? We had a music program. We talked last year about enhancing that and turning it into what became expressive arts. And the kids have done things that exceed my expectations. When you see 8th grade boys doing a kick line of dance, that to me is saying the teacher is connected to the students. I'm just saying that is a game changer in that perspective. She also is heads up our show choir, which its numbers have doubled.
Through there.
We're excited about that. Just want to, we'll pivot from her and talk about expressive arts there. You can see, oh, there's the kick line, right? But you can see they're doing music, they're learning rhythm, the bucket drumming is there. That is very loud in a classroom. I'm just gonna be very honest with that. But kids connect in just a different way. You can see they've got stage makeup that they do. They're doing acting, they write their own scripts, so we're incorporating ELA into that as well. And then dance as well. And the floor, unfortunately, is probably gonna have to be replaced because those gap shoes do quite a bit of damage to it, but we're gonna let that happen because they are enjoying themselves. And that's what our Explore programs are about, right? Having them explore something new and experience something that they might not have otherwise experienced in their life. I can tell you all 4 of them have never done anything like that before. We're excited to have that. It's not just about, right, what happens in the classroom, but what's the extension of the classroom? And we have field trips again. It's great. It feels great. It's brand new. It's amazing how you forget. If you have, those of you that are teachers, if you haven't run a field trip yet, forgot how to do it. It's crazy to come back and start doing that again. And our teachers have met the challenge to bring back programming for our students outside of school. So where are some of the places that we've started? I'll start on the right side. Our 7th graders just got back from Shakespeare Theater a few weeks ago. That was awesome. They got to see Romeo and Juliet. That's a long time trip that we've done, and I think it enhances the curriculum for sure. It gives them an experience that only Chicago can provide them, right, in that way. And it's great to get down into the city and do that. 7th grade will be heading to Springfield here in 2 weeks as well. Ms. Chaika took that up and she's running with it. Our 8th graders will go off to Washington, DC. Some 8th graders will also go to the Brookfield Zoo. 8th grade went over to RBHS to see their performance. Not this most recent one, but the one in the fall. We think it's really important that they get over there and see what RB has to offer for them, because we are the ones that will fill those things at RB. And so we want our students to see what the performing arts looks like there. And 8th grade will also get Great America at the end of the year. 6th grade is getting outdoor education. So this is a program reimagined coming out of COVID. We're gonna go to the Atwood Center, which is in Rockford. This is the first time that we've gone there. You can't take your whole grade level there on the same day, so it'll be April 4th and 5th, and then the other group will stay back and do activities at school with team building and other focus that the science teachers are coming up with. But it's going to focus on outdoor education and team building while they're there. That program is developed by the camp. We have other schools that we partnered with to talk about Atwood, because we've gone to many other places in the past. There's Iron Oaks, all of those places. And we want to give Atwood Center a try. We think it's going to be very successful. And it is interesting to me how timid the sixth graders are with field trips. You realize that was really something that they did lose through the pandemic. And so when you talk about going on this, it's like, well, what, how, why, what? Whereas in the past, it's like field trip, great, off we go. Outdoor education will also be longer than the school day, so teachers have committed to staying with the students until 6 or 7 o'clock. When we get back, they'll start the day at 7 o'clock, so that is a longer day for sure for the students and staff. But it really did come out of our sixth grade team saying, we want to bring this back. We want to look at something that we've had in the past that was good for students, but we want to reimagine that. And I think this will be the right way to reimagine outdoor education. And we're excited that they're going to have that opportunity next year, this year, and into the following years. Instruction update as well at Gross. It's not just the programming that changes or student management systems that changes. We're also looking to change the physical space. I was kind of looking forward to no more construction projects for a while, but it looks like we're back up and running, and Jeff, now you'll get to experience that as well. Just to focus on early childhood really quickly, why is this so important to the middle school? You know why it's important to ECE, but why is it important to the middle school? We have to start finding ways as we expand this programming to, one, mix with these groups, but stay as far apart as well at the same time. And I know that dynamic sounds odd, but we want our students interacting with these kids. We want them to be leaders for them. We want them to interact in different programs with them and read to them. Next week, Emily Salzman is taking her classes down to read to all of them. That's a wonderful experience for the kids. Our FACS program that we're going to talk about in a little bit, they go down there and they work with these students. They learn about raising children, all of those things. But to have them walking around and moving through the building while there's a bunch of middle schoolers there poses a unique challenge. And so by keeping them contained within this area while we're expanding makes tremendous sense for our building. Giving them a dedicated entrance and exit is very, very smart. 2 reasons why. One, most of the time they're walking from this side of the building where all of our middle school students are in the gym, walking up and down the hallways and then trying to get into their classes. The kids do a nice job with it, but to have them away is even better. When we have emergencies, right? So if we have a fire alarm that goes off, the way that they currently exit, and there is no way to change it because of how the fire doors are, these classes exit into this hallway and come out. So does 3 stories of our building coming down these stairs. They are the slowest to exit the building, and they are the first to get to this point, right? So it slows the exit of our entire building. So from a safety perspective as well, this makes a lot of sense. So when we start looking at these plans and we start seeing budgets, we start seeing all that, remember that there are some bigger considerations to think of. The idea of having a sensory room for them as well is really important. How our middle school students will benefit from that, right, is that new FACS lab. We have updated all of our Explore spaces except for this one. This one was created in the early 2000s, and it was done with all residential cabinets, all residential appliances. Think about your kitchens at your home that you built in 2000 and how they're holding up 23 years later. Then throw 125 middle schoolers into it every semester, right? It's time to make a change in this space. This foods lab that is being developed was done by site visits. So we went to Hadley Junior High, which just built a new foods lab. We went to Hinsdale Middle School, which just built a new food lab, and we got input from them. What works, what doesn't, what would you change, what would you make different? And then we started to design this with Steve Cashman, and I think he's done a wonderful job. These look different than what you have in your plans because I just got these yesterday. So I dropped the newest plans in off of the feedback that we've been getting, off of what Sue, our teacher, Sue Devon, has been giving feedback on. And essentially what we've created is 6 stations. We currently have 4. So 6 stations allows for our students to get more access to this space, and we can safely increase class sizes in our FACS lab. But you see like these little islands, these are actually movable stainless steel tables that come off the walls. So when they're cooking, they can be in and doing that. When they're doing another project, because we believe career exploration is a huge part of this as well, they could be using the center of that room as well for something entirely different. So the design of it through all of those things, I think is going to be a very functional space for our students. They've got common refrigerators and things like that that they're going to go to. But again, how this design was developed really was with the people that are doing the work right now. And I think that's very important because we're able to take that feedback. And I think that we're going to have a lab that really works well for our students. And again, I talked a little bit about that FACS programming going from 4 to 6. We're also going to start looking into project-based learning in this programming. So that'll be centered around career exploration. Defined Learning is our partner for that. Kathy talked with you about that when she came in, but we're moving that along. So the days of a student just doing a simple interview for GameStop will probably begin to transition to, let's really look and see what careers are out there for you in the future and what do those entail and what are the plans that you need to start putting in place to do that. And I think that that will be good for our students as they think about what their futures are. Also, by bringing those early childhood classrooms over, right, we have more ability to work with those students. And we used to do that. We've walked away from that based on some scheduling stuff. And based on COVID, that's something Sue's very excited to get back into our programming. And I think that we'll be able to do that. Finally, Spanish, we made that change by offering Spanish to all students. And I just wanted to give you an update on that, which I think is really important. We have more students than ever being exposed to a foreign language at SC Gross, which is a huge benefit for our student body. But I think it's this last piece here. The state had walked away from foreign language being a requirement. That is coming back, right? And so by having this model in place, we are supporting the goals of the high school and student body that we service the most of our students to, Riverside Brookfield. And so having this in place and having the vast majority of our students enrolled in a foreign language would be a benefit to them when they go on to high school. So while that change was something that we felt was important because foreign language is incredibly important and it was a goal of the board, I think we now see an additional benefit as the state is going to be going back to foreign language will be a requirement for students. So kind of on the forefront of that, and I think that that's great for our students as a whole. Before Jeff talks about performing arts, I'm just going to stop. I went through a lot of different things there, and there was construction talk and programming talk. I'll pause and say, are there any questions that you have about that?
I have a question.
Yep.
In your FACS program, I forget what the acronym is, but.
Family and consumer science.
That's it. Is there any kind of financial literacy aspect to it?
There is, yes, and actually that would be one of the units that comes in through that defined learning as well.
Okay, yeah.
So that would be enhanced as well. Right now, they're doing budgets through spreadsheets and things like that. I forgot which grade level it is at, but that is something that they do
Okay,
with them.
good.
A good place to be enhanced, though. Other questions?
All grades have access to the facts.
Yep, so, and again, with the changes that we made to our Explore classes, where we really believe we have solid programming in all places. It used to be that elective model where they chose what they want. Now they're getting that because again, we said like, it is very important that you get these different skills and are exposed to something that might make you uncomfortable. And so the vast majority of students are going into that program, which I think is a benefit to them. I think you'll see an increase in it would be a detriment to the room to not see an increase in some of the cooking that happens there because now they can have more access to it. So that'll be something that changes as well.
There's still gonna be laundry.
Their laundry will change. This does not have laundry realized in it. So they will go over what it is, but they will not be doing laundry in that space. And that was something that we went over a lot of different schools as they made those transitions. Have really walked away from that. So no more laundry.
Middle school kids don't have hygiene issues ever, so.
Yeah, they're really.
Especially in groups, right?
They smell very.
Basically.
Other questions that you guys have? You know that not to be true. And I'm gonna let Jeff, this is kind of an update on some of the stuff that you talked about, but again, something that's important, not just to us, but I think to the wider community as well, as we look at performing arts and the importance that it has in our community.
I know I spoke with the board in January about after school and how it's an extension of the school day. So a couple of things to highlight. I do think that bottom right picture, to see a packed house for a band concert is something that we obviously missed for a few years through COVID and have rebounded in a strong way. Our band numbers are strong, our participation across the board. Ryan talked about Camp and Golner, who's done some amazing things with our expressive arts, but also with our choir as well. And talking with Liz during closed session and hearing about some of the cool things with the performances here at Brook Park, it's great to see that extension, the passion for performing arts, to see that almost 50% of our kids are involved in one way or another, whether that's through band, through choir, through the play, stage crew, all the different opportunities that they have. A plug for our school performance, April 23rd and 24th over here. Andy, the early reviews are that it's going to blow you away. So I encourage you to come and watch it. We've got some really excellent performers and just seeing different scenes as they develop. It really is, it's going to be great. So we hope to see you there. An update on our sports teams, and we talked about this before and highlighted a lot of our sports teams, and I think also just the value added from our coaches, which I think we're really fortunate to have. We are currently in our boys volleyball season. May have had a game today that went well. Exciting to see our teams develop, and we're looking forward to the cross country season. Cross country new to us in the last 6 or 7 years, replaced track, and one of the benefits is it's a non-cut sport. And so early indications are we could have close to 100 kids involved in cross country. Good problem to have, to order more uniforms because we have that many kids that are interested in a sport, in a fun sport, to see all different grades come together, support each other as they're, some of them have a lot of experience in running and some of them have never run over a mile before. And so it really is a fun sport to see kids develop in. A shout out to our PTO, and I know a number of our board members support our PTO. We're really fortunate. They do amazing things for kids, all behind the scenes. They provide money, they provide opportunities. We talked before about March Madness and the Warrior Way. All of that is funded through PTO sponsored events. Recently, just last week or a few weeks ago, we had our trivia night. You can see some of the spirit from our parent and community members, and then some pictures from our school dance as well. And so they are heavily attended, and I think it does, wrapping things back to how we started, lead to the buy-in and the pride that we see our kids having in school. Our newest addition to the team, and I think Ryan may have talked with everybody, we're really excited. Our process, we hope, was extensive, and going back to December, we had about 65 applicants, and Lauren rose to the top through each round. Initially from the area, she's moving back with her family, a great background in coaching teachers, in curriculum, in instruction and engagement. So she's been an assistant principal, a coach, a teacher, and I think the more people that we talk to about Lauren, the more great things that we heard. And those were confirmed through interviews via Zoom and in person with our teachers, with our administrative staff, community. And so we are really, really excited to add her to our team. We're going to be in collaboration with her throughout the spring as we start planning, even more so in the summer when she moves back. And then obviously she'll hit the ground running with us in summer and fall. So I know we went through a lot and there's a lot more to discuss, but any questions or things that board has, we'd be happy to.
I don't have any questions, but as like a new middle school parent, I can't thank you both enough. Like it has been such a positive experience and Addie has really, her confidence has grown, her independence has really thrived. So thank you both for all that you do.
But I think every student in middle school finds their stride at a certain point as well, right? Some earlier than others, but I know
Well,
that.
usually in sixth grade. so
Right,
that's-
but at every grade level, we have great staff in place to support them for when that next phase comes for them, and that's really what middle school is about. We can talk about, we will continue to focus on academics, we'll continue to focus on our data and how that can improve. But there's the human development side as well, and I think a lot of times in middle school, that goes overlooked. We have them at their most hormonal point of life. We have them at the point where they're just starting to get into those big conflicts, right? A lot of times you'll hear it's bullying, right? That's social conflict that's happening. It's the first time that happens really for kids. And it's our staff job, to walk them and their parents through that. And I think that we have an exceptional group of people to help bring those kids through that process. Whether it's academically, socially, emotionally, I think we're really striving every day to help each kid in their stride. So thank you for that.
I do have a question. I know in Brook Park, they do things for kids who are new. I don't know how much of new students you see, but how is that handled? I mean, that's gonna be a hard transition as a new student coming in.
Yeah, and so we have a teacher team, especially with our social worker, where we'll meet with new kids, we'll check back in. We do on an average year, get between 10 and 15 new kids, primarily at the beginning of the year. So from a community standpoint, our mobility rate is really low. And that's both transfers out and transfers in. But we do, and I think it speaks to the student culture and climate where new kid comes and it's like 100 kids hover around that, and like, be our friend, and again, I think it's genuine where they want the new kid to feel a part of the school, part of the community, and so I think we do find they seem to fit in well, and the feedback that we get is really positive from our new students. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public comment? No. Communications? FOIA requests?
Good month.
Okay, old business.
All right, so we talked about the board meeting dates at the last board meeting. This is pretty much routine, but just to approve the board meeting dates, I don't, there probably needs to be much more conversation about it.
Can you refresh my memory why the August and January ones we pushed to the third week and not the second? Was it because it's too close to the beginning of the school year and too close to coming back from winter break?
No, I think, like if you look at August, for example, just the way that we run our voucher, so if I looked at like August
It would
one
be
is
too
probably
early.
like, it'd be August 7th would
Right.
be or 8th,
Okay,
and we just wouldn't have time to process all of that
yep, that makes
in
sense.
that time frame. So that's why it says typically
Yeah.
the second Thursday, unless the first Thursday is usually the first or second of the month, then we push it if we can. To the third.
Thank you. Can you get a motion, please?
I move to approve the 2024 to 2025 board meeting date as presented.
Mrs. Garvey, Mrs. Laura.
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan Gruber.
Aye.
Miss Allen.
Aye.
Mrs. Jordan.
Aye.
Mrs. Moker.
New business.
So, tis the season of budgets, and so we usually start looking at next year's budget by first looking at how this year's budget has been performing and making some predictions about where we're going to be, and whether, you know, we think we're gonna be in good shape or not so good shape. So there's what I've provided you in this budget performance predictions, or this document here, are two different ways, entirely different ways to look at the performance of the budget and where I think we are going to be. So in looking at this, I'm just looking at the operating fund, so we're not looking at debt service where we pay our bonds. So that's really money in, money out. So you can see in total, when we set the budget, which is usually very conservative, we thought we'd have about, in these funds, about $177,000 of revenue over expense. So just a little better than breaking even. But you can see by fund what, using a number of predictive models that routinely are pretty solid. You can see that in the ed fund, for example, we should be doing really well at almost 1.6 of revenue over expense in that account. O&M would be about a $50,000 deficit. Transportation, we can talk about this one a little bit more in depth, about $150,000 deficit. Then IMRF, about even between revenues and expenses. And then working cash doesn't have an expense to it. It's just money that is generated into essentially like a district savings account. So all in all, you can see if you added up the totals of total revenue in those accounts, total expenses, you see about 1.7 million of revenue over expense. And then you back out that alternate bond, that's our payment that we have to make on a regular basis. So you're really looking at about $850,000 in net. So a couple of things that are driving that, as I've communicated in, you know, Friday notes, an exceptional year in interest gains, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest due to the market. So that has helped. Some additional evidence-based funding that came in with new tiered money that amounted to about $400,000 extra dollars. So that's what's contributing to some of this. The transportation costs for that number is alarming to me, even though it's only $150,000. And when we look and do a little deeper dive into transportation, our special ed transportation is twice the amount as our regular transportation. We're talking about 30-some children. So it is, and as we talk about these numbers that keep seeming to creep up in this area, that is that's a cost that is only going up at what we should anticipate to be double-digit percentages every year. Just the cost of transportation, double-digit increases every year, and then the number of kids that are in there. So one thing that you will hear as we get into the levy scenario is taking a percentage of the money percentage of the tax rate out of probably the ed fund. So we'll start seeing less taxes coming to ed fund, but we're gonna have to fund transportation through tax revenue much more significantly than we have in the past. Otherwise, that transportation fund balance will be zero before I'm even out of here. It's gonna be, because that fund has such a low starting point anyway, that 150,000 in the ed fund is half of 1%. This is probably 50 or 60% of the total fund balance and that additional loss, because it's such a small fund to begin with. So just to keep that, we may even need to, as we get into it and we get into the fiscal year 25 budget, we may have to do a permanent transfer from working cash to transportation just to get that fund balance back up, because it's getting hit hard right now, and it's all due to special ed transportation.
Why?
Well, when our students go outside of the district, we have to pay a specialized transport service for that. And sometimes we might be paying for transportation for just one student, and they might be being transported 50 miles away. So it's not like just within our
Oh, that
district.
makes sense. Okay.
So, yeah,
We also offer transportation within our district.
we do. Yeah, and so regular transportation, that cost goes up. I mean, I wish it didn't go up as much as it does, but it's just, I mean, those are 10 and 12% increments every year that goes up. We do offset that with the parents paying a portion of that, right, transportation fee. But that number is very manageable within the budget. And so is some special ed. But our special ed is probably this year is 3 to 4 times what it has been in the past. And it doubles what our regular transportation, and we're transporting 7 times 60 kids, eight times 60, whatever that number is. That's how many routes we have. And then we have 36 kids that we are transporting, and they are double for those 36 what the 400, 300 are. It's just that cost is so expensive. So we are, but that's what's that's why that number looks really big. That should be probably plus $10,000. So that's a huge swing that causes some attention. And then if you look at the bottom, and this is important because we have to have a fund balance to start the actual budget template. So a different way to look at this is where our beginning fund balance was at the beginning of fiscal year 24, what my estimation is, and then where those fund balances begin. So and you see that 969 in red, we took that money out of working cash this year. That's the bond payment. And we put it into debt service. And then of course it goes out of debt service because it gets paid. So debt service kind of remains the same at that fund balance, and because it's money in, money out, but it just shows where that 969 went. So you can see the growth in our total fund balance across the board, or in some, you can see like transportation. We started with 328, we're gonna end with 178. If we have another negative 150, you'd be running a deficit. So we'll give that attention probably through a permanent transfer out of that working cash balance, which is, healthy there too. So, yeah, those are just another way to show how healthy you are in your operating funds. And then I just listed a couple of quick things for budget impacts. Right now I'm calculating 12% across the board in insurance costs. Salary increases for all employee groups will equate to about 825,000. And then we have the ECE project at 1.5, which will just be a drawdown of probably working cash money. But what I would say to the board is just reminding you that we had originally planned to pay that bond through some ed fund money and some working cash funds, and that it would continue to draw down those fund balances. But we yet have had to draw down our fund balance to do that. We've had enough extra that has just come in through all the funds that would cover that 9.69. As evidenced by above, even though we have a total of 1,717 extra in revenue, that covers that payment without touching your fund balances. So we're maintaining quite a bit. And I think just to piggyback off Ryan's, construction update and that 1.5, we've had to do a couple of remodels. I don't know that anything changes that budget. Our first bid package will be to the board in April. It's really the long lead item, so it's a really small it's about 200,000 of the 1.5 million. So it's a small percentage, but we did have 8 contractors come in, for the pre-bid meeting, which was good to see. I think some of them some were doors, some were windows, but, there was a healthy number of people there. We expect that we'll get healthy bids out of that. So, we're looking forward to it. I think we are talking now, there is that hallway, if you remember, that comes down the side of the old cafeteria toward the new cafeteria, and then the adjacent hallway. Those hallways are in bad shape, large port, all of the west side and half of the east side is all asbestos material. We are looking at getting alternate bids to see exactly how much it would be, and are we gonna have any cost savings, and can we add some abatement work in those hallways? Potentially, that classroom is right in that same hallway of ECE. Abatement is not cheap, but just the way that they have to contain it, it might make sense because the containment can capture some of those areas and not have to be recontained. And people would be on site you have to have an on-site monitor that monitor the air quality and all of that. They're monitoring the same space. It's just whether you're going to cut it off here or here. So it makes sense. We've been working with Jim, Ryan and I and the construction management firm to look at that. And our asbestos management is an outside firm that does it. So we'll look at some of this extra revenue that's coming in and make some decisions like in additional capital projects to tack on to that. So we're looking at that right now just to see if it makes sense. So any questions on where I think the budget's gonna land this year? I think we're in great shape. Very happy. All right, and then the last piece, just real quick, is the budget timeline, moving forward, just so you have it. This is the performance, estimations here. The May meeting is when we'll approve the tentative FY25 budget, and then it goes on display. And then just the way it hits, it has to be on display. We're not gonna make our June meeting. It's gotta be 30 days. So we'll approve the final budget in July, and then we can review the actual performance of fiscal year 24, because it will have ended. And then the budget will be submitted to ISB in August. So, and this is consistent with what we do every year.
Okay.
All right.
Commission discussion?
Yeah, so just a quick update on our movement from the National School Lunch Program to kind of our new arrangement with Quest. I've given you a copy of the draft contract. Ryan and I worked with Nick, who's the CEO of Quest, and it kind of, the language in the contract mirrors what we discussed. And we know that we believe that we're gonna operate in a deficit. We knew that. And we got into a discussion with Nick about, both of us rowing in the same direction and both of us having skin to make this thing as profitable or make the margin as small as possible. And his proposal was, all right, well, why don't you give me a percentage of your revenue? And because then we're working harder to generate revenue. And I said, I don't have a problem with that in theory. But then you also have to have a percentage of the risk. So we agreed in here, and this is something a little bit different in these terms, that if there is a revenue that's a profit that is made, that they would take 25% and we would take 75% of the revenue. But if there's a deficit, which I do believe is going to more likely to happen on the front end than on the back end until we really start expanding this out, they're going to take 25% of the loss. And then we would take 75% of the loss. Now, they're not going to allow their loss to exceed their management fee of $20,000, so they'd be capped at a $20,000 loss. But I think it definitely is a unique way, that we both have skin in the game to make this thing as self-sufficient as possible. And we don't need to necessarily make money on it as a district. If we broke even, I think that would be awesome. It doesn't need to be a money generating piece. But given that we're going to leave money on the table from the National School Lunch Program, and we estimated that that could be between 60 and 80,000, I'm hedging the bet that they're gonna eat 25% of it, and they're gonna work hard to eat it. So, and given some other things that have worked with them on, I think having them have skin in the game makes sense. So I just wanted you to see that and make sure you were good with that approach. I see a lot of shaking yes. Okay. And on a positive side, we went and did one more walkthrough about equipment, and we did a hard look here at Brook Park, and I said essentially the scope added equipment. We talked to Jim, our guys are gonna rip those cabinets out. We're essentially gonna take everything out of there, repaint it. We gotta do some floor work to put the drain in. Our guys will do all of that work. And then we talked about, well, we have like one of these tables that they're here. Shouldn't we have a stainless steel prep table? So I said, add this stuff in and let's see where we're at. So the original quote that I had brought to you was about $85,000 to $95,000 worth of equipment. So we added that equipment and we went back and forth and worked with one of the carriers and said, look, you're high on this, but if you want the whole bid, you got to match these. So our total out with all of the new equipment that was added to the scope is only $70,000. So we're below where we thought we were starting anyway. So we're off to a good start. In my mind, it's 25,000 off of that 95 number. We added equipment. We have a good plan for revamping the SE grosses, just kind of plug and play, not a lot of work to do there. Here, there's some work and get people in a fresh space, get people excited about delivering these lunches. And I think there's been and maybe, I don't know if the middle school folks have heard any about the lunch and an uptick, and I know Ryan's done some work and they've been showcasing our district to other districts. And that has prompted a little bit of a step up to put on a show. And Ryan has really been working with them to make sure that what we see on the day that visitors come is what we get every day. And we had our highest sale total ever, whether it was Monday or Tuesday or yesterday. Yeah, they even called me like they had 220-ish, 220. We might do what's normal.
What
Yeah.
was the big draw?
Survey.
What was the big draw?
Okay, all right. Okay.
I mean, that is huge. And when we switch out of the National School Lunch Program and go to this new way to deliver, students will be able to, remember, it's a la carte, right? So the students will be able to pick and choose what they want. And I think you'll see when they do that, those numbers will start.
So it's exciting for that.
So has it rolled out already, or is it just?
No, I think the biggest shift was we were having one cold entree and one hot entree as an option. And now we have two hot entrees, and there's been some nice discussions about the quality of the fruits and vegetables that were delivered. And it's a much higher standard now than it was before. So we're seeing kids load up, or at least the days I've been over there. I mean, they're just loading up with grapes and cantaloupe and, yeah, so.
Quest is definitely performing at higher level for our students, and I think that's fantastic, because if that continues as the way that we work with each other, the kids will see the benefit of that.
Yeah.
I actually had staff members approach me yesterday and say, is this going to remain for next year? And I said, well, it's gonna get better. I'm like, okay, I need lunch here again. And again, we want as many savings as possible on our end, but I think that speaks volumes to what's being served now to the kids and what will be served in.
Well, and we're getting late in the hour and I don't want to revert back to budget, but I do want to tell you that I was approached by some fourth graders, and as we
Okay.
look at this budget, just know, apparently we need a bigger, faster slide, and if it has water, that would be awesome.
Aw.
We may need to build that into next year's budget. We need a bigger, faster slide according to the fourth grader
Oh.
playing on the playground. That was, I think they were just so excited to be outside. It was like one of the first warm days we had and everyone was running around and good time. So, I wanted to share that with you. Well, it wouldn't be a meeting if we didn't talk about the, statement of economic interest reminder for all of you.
Why are you looking at
I'm looking
me?
at Barb. You should have gotten an email. It has come out. So I want to say it's May 1st that is due, so without a penalty. So get your statement of economic interest, file. What? It was emailed to you.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. And then the last piece is just, talking about some staffing, recommendations, in the nature of additional staff or additional FTE than what we already are operating with. And we have you remember when Dean was here, we talked about special ed staffing, and I said, you know, this idea of our resource 2 being 3 grade levels, 2 teachers, 3 grade levels with a variety of between behavioral